He was just an absolutely fabulous guy. More than just being a fireman. He was just a very, very good guy.
Attention all Plain City firemen. At 117 South Street on a working trailer fire. Engines 261, 263, Squad 262, Truck 266 from Chief 261. 261, see, we got a single story wood frame, we got a working fire. 261! In the kitchen, have him come back and turn to the right, I got a different worker.
Like from the outside, I think what you knew was like almost legendary status.
This is the picture you would probably put up, you know, for a recruiting poster or something.
He really appreciated the older way of doing things, the very traditional fireground tactics and firehouse banner.
But he wanted to be known as that firefighter that worked in the 70s. The guy that didn't need the mask to put his head out the window because he was proud of what he did. And he walked the walk, though. You know.
Jeff was kind of bigger than life as a fireman. You know, the old day of the 3/4 boots and the coat. That was Jeff Collier. You know, I mean that was his style.
He loved the long black gear. He loved the big handlebar mustache.
It was a piece of cake to follow.
This is the real deal.
We were drawn to Jeff, very friendly, as I said. We believed in him.
He looked out for his guys more than he looked out for himself most of the time.
Again, he was part of the guys.
Just the way he pushed guys to be good at what they do. I think he was a fireman's fireman and a fireman's officer. He was more worried about being good at his job and getting the job done than he was, you know, necessarily the political side of it, you know, making sure paperwork gets filled out properly and things like that. Not that he didn't do that, but that wasn't his priority. You know, he was more of a, you know, let's make sure we get the job done, get it done right.
His responsibility was first and foremost to the job and his men, not to administration. That's what he was passionate about.
Jeff was real good. I mean, he wasn't an officer that said, "Hey, go get it." He was an officer that said, "Let's go get it."
I think I was like 18 or 19. We had a fire, and I was, you know, you're always taught, you just go in, you're crawling around. So I went in with the nozzle, and I just remember I was pretty much laying on the ground, and then I just see these feet walk by me, and I'm like, who the hell is that? And it was Jeff, just pretty much, you know, hey, dumbass, get up off the ground, and he just walked right by me.
He was a natural leader with the extent that he cared about the people in the sense of he wanted to move forward and be good at the profession.
That style of an officer as a fireman, we had a lot of respect for. You kind of look at that and you want to mimic that kind of guy. You know what I mean? Not only as a fireman, but as a person, as a man.
JAFO was all about the fire service. He grew up in it. He loved it, so he lived it.
It is, you know, you have your family, you have your faith, and then you have your fire service.
Again, it goes back to his enthusiasm, you know, for his job, and that was this infectious when you looked at being around him. You just wanted to be with him. I think that the biggest thing is his compassion for the job. He never took for granted the work that he did.
But ultimately, in the end, he had this job for the right reason. He wanted to make a difference, help people, you know, and he was so proud of it, you know.
He was probably the guy I knew most who was so totally committed to the fire service. I don't know if anybody else that would even come close.
JAFO had it, and it is very hard to explain. And I think first and foremost, it's your attitude towards job. He loved his job. He truly lived for the fire service.
If there was fire and smoke, JAFO was in it.
We had a training fire, and it was when Bostic said, if you wasn't on duty or whatever, you're not to be at the training fire. Well, JAFO, you know, he's all about getting into everything. He was there, and you see someone panning around at the house and it's burning, and all of a sudden you see JAFO standing right there at the house, and he looks over and sees he's getting filmed. He takes off running around the tree. He comes up behind the guy. That was not JAFO. That was not Jeff. He's not here.
You know, he talked the talk, but he also walked the walk. He knew how to be a fireman.
He was always trying to improve himself.
And from what I was told, he loved to train, which luckily we get to do a lot of here at Washington.
You know, spent all his day on that truck. I mean, that was his truck. So pretty much, if you were out there with him, he would go through everything with you. Spent hours. I mean, that's all he did. He loved that.
He was more on the ladder. He was a ladder guy.
Just that he was a tremendous fireman. His work ethic was, when it came to the job, was, you know, probably almost second to none. I mean, he worked hard at getting the job done. He knew so much stuff about the fire service.
Love it or not, you know, he was going to get into it, and he's going to take his crew with him. So you better, you know, strap on your boots and get in there and follow him in there. And you know.
That's probably the biggest thing. I mean, he didn't get worked up about the small things.
He would teach you how to be a fireman. He wasn't really scared. I mean, I had never known Jeff to be. I mean, if he was, he didn't show his fear of the fire. You know, I mean, there was things that we were doing that, you know, I wasn't too sure of. You know.
He was always aggressive. He's always going to get in the middle of it. You know, whether he was supposed to get in the middle of it or not, you know, he was going to get into it.
Let's see. Ornery. Serious when he had to be. Aggressive. Firefighter. And sometimes all three of those seem to combine and get him in a little trouble.
Quick story of Jeff's mentality and humor, but so he's still a volunteer. We pull up at a fire on Highland Croy and Post Road and get off the truck, and he's ready to roll, and I'm pulling hose, and we start to go up to this house, and these guys come running down the driveway, and they're like, no, we set this house on fire on purpose. We're burning it down on purpose, and no one let us know. Well, Jeff had his pike pole that was going to vent, and we was going to make entry, and he was already telling me what I was going to do, and he took that pike pole and like a javelin, and he launched that at those guys coming at him, and that thing, poof, stuck in the ground. One of them 10-foot wooden old-school pike poles in the ground. Wow. My dad grabbed him and took him to the back of the fire truck and read him the riot act, and those guys were so scared, you know, of, number one, what they have done, but they really didn't even realize that Jeff just launched a pike pole at him like a javelin.
You know, something he embodied, just being no nonsense, and especially what people on the outside are going to see. On the inside, it's the guy with the big pencil on his desk, the big, you know, clown pencil or whatever.
You know, he was one of those type of guys that, you know, we wanted to have fun, we had fun, but, you know, when we went to work, we went to work, you know.
I mean, he was serious when it came down to it, you were on the job, he was serious at that part. But then the rest of the time, it was, you know, it was just hilarious. He was funny as hell, and we used to have a blast. In the early 90s, I think we played badminton for like 8 hours at a time.
Stories I won't tell you on tape, but things that he did that were just hilarious, so funny, you know. So he was a character. I mean, he was continually making jokes and laughing and doing things that were crazy. And once you thought that was it, he was done, then it was back to doing something else crazy. And numerous times on Saturdays, he would say, all right, what are we going to do? We got to come up with a game. So he would try to come up with some sort of game to play.
Jeff was a great officer about bringing guys around and finding things for us to do to blow off steam. There was always a game, you know. It was whether we took the golf cart and tried to jump the creek out back that he didn't do so well doing at times. He loved competition, whether we were playing a video game or out on the front ramp playing wiffle ball, or it might be an RC car that you bring in and set up a racetrack in the thing, and we all take turns of running the RC car through the racetrack.
When we were probably the best time we had, we were both firefighters, because we didn't look at anything administratively. You know what I mean? We would, from softball on the front ramp to racing the go-kart down the street to all the things that if you were a chief, you're just going, what are they doing? You know, and you know, I remember the battalion chief looking out the window and just closing his blinds when me and him were out there, because we were probably going to do something we shouldn't do.
In the summertime, on a nice pretty day like today, you know, we would do drafting. We'd get the dump tank out, set it out back here, let it warm up for the day. You know, we'd fill it up first thing in the morning, and then we'd do some training, you know, get the little draft operations, then we'd leave it up. And about 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, now it turned into a nice little pool. We get our little duckies on and little swim fins, and next thing you know, we're all lounging in the dump tank, just cooling off on a nice hot summer August day, you know, like we had our own backyard pool. So that was a lot of fun.
We would pose for some pictures and houses, and as pictures I can't really show today, but we would look like that we were either drinking a beer or laying on the couch, and obviously the house was pretty much destroyed behind us.
There's a picture hanging up at 95s that I think sort of shows, you know, him. You know, it's another 2 units Food Locker. Shows him playing with little army men, and that was actually after a bedroom fire that we had, and you know, we were doing a little overhaul, and he found some army men, so he gets down on the floor and starts playing with the army men. So
we were both working at Plain City at the time, and we were going to Marysville on a move up, taking a Plain City squad to Marysville, and this truck wasn't very well maintained. So every time you let off the gas, the thing would backfire a good 10-inch flame out the muffler. Well, stereo's on, Jeff and I are cruising out to Marysville, and it seemed to be more fun that let's see how many times we can get this thing to backfire. Well, by the time we got to Marysville, we didn't have a muffler anymore, and things sound like chitty chitty bang bang pulling into their bay. So we totally trashed this truck for no reason whatsoever. But, that's probably the one I feel safe about saying. Although I'd probably owe somebody some money for that. So.
Even a little bit more of a jokester and a prankster off duty. The guys on 2 unit would go golfing during the summer, and he'd get a golf cart and he'd end up playing polo golf. It was never, you know, he would tee off from the tee, and the next thing you know, he's down the fairway stuff, or he's out driving through the woods.
You know, we were all part of a team during the firefighters bowling tournament. I mean, we did it every year, and there was our 5 guys, and we didn't go to win. We went to play and have fun, and that's exactly what we did. And Jeff was quite funny to watch because he was probably one of the biggest guys there, but he was bowling with a 6-pound ball. And anybody that bowls on a regular basis knows that that ball is going to fly down the alley, and it did every time. And the harder he threw it, the more damage it did, and the funnier it was to watch.
He really liked the medic. He would get so upset in the morning if he wasn't put on the medic.
Yeah, he was a big, always carried extra gloves in his pockets because he was always wanting to get in on, he's always wanting to get in on C-spine, if he could hold C-spine or something, yeah. That's, you can't even pull that joke off, yeah, he just didn't.
It was funny, he had one issue in the fire service. He hated EMS. He detested taking medic runs. If it was a fire run, if it was a water leak, if it was a fire alarm, he was all over it. But he hated EMS. But
he got his A card because he had to, at least. But, you know, he wanted to go do the job. Sometimes he went a little too far, and he did get hurt from that sometimes, and then he could almost get himself in trouble. He had some close calls.
JAFO was known for getting injured quite often. That's just, I think he pushed the limit, and that's okay. I think I saw him push the limit on, wow, I can't believe he's doing that. And he would get hurt. And there was a little joke that, you know, JAFO's injured, JAFO's injured, JAFO's injured. I mean, it was in jest, but he did get injured. Nothing serious, but he did get injured quite often because he did push the limit.
But you talk about Jeff getting hurt multiple times at one fire. We got pictures to prove it. We go to a barn fire in Plain City, and Jeff's got his line off. I come in later, and we're setting up other stuff for him and to flank this fire. And Jeff goes, I can't get up here close enough. I said, listen, you can do it. I said, turn around feet first. Turn your helmet around backwards and put it down in front of your face and get that 2.5 up underneath there. The fire's just licking over top of him. And I said, you're going to hit the sea of the fire. Well, next thing I know, they're dragging Jeff back. And what I forgot to do was realize that they had issued us new boots that didn't have insulation or any type of vapor barrier. So he, second-degree burns on his feet, and we got to take him out and change him up and send him back in town to get bandaged up. He comes back to the fire after he gets bandaged up, goes right back to work. We're in the overhaul mode. Jeff's in there working, and he's got his pike pole like any ladder guy would do, and he's never been on a ladder company yet. But he's in there tearing things up, and what's he do but rams a pike pole through a can of paint, and it blows up in his face. So wrap his face up, put him on a cot, haul him off to Marysville Hospital. So Jeff's kind of infamous for getting hurt multiple times on fires.
We got it done safely because he was the one that was up front and getting it done, getting in the thick of things and making sure you were okay. But I will tell you, Jeff spent a lot of time in the local ERs that wherever we were fighting.
And like I said, he wasn't a big mask guy. He didn't like doing that. He was good. You'll see a lot of pictures of Jeff sticking his head out the window, catching some air, and then going back in. I'm the sissy next to him with the mask on, but
he believed in the diehard leather lung. And at that being a very young age, he probably didn't think about the consequences. That was just the old leather lung was, you were the baddest of the bad. The more crap you could take, the cooler you were around the firehouse.
And I remember at 91s in the bathroom after our runs, I told him, I said, Jeff, you got to be more careful, man. This stuff could kill you. I remember telling him that, and God forbid it did. At least I'm sure it played a part of it. And we would talk about that. But he had this vision of that New York fireman that they don't do that. If I died doing this, I'm a hero. I think he believed that, and a lot of us he was. He did a great job. He was a great firefighter,
Yeah. I remember exactly where I was when I found out that he had cancer, that he was unsure of what the future was going to bring.
When Dad told us that there's a chance that the doctors might think Jeff has some kind of maybe a cancer or something, pretty much Jeff has about a year possibly to live. He's got cancer growing in his lungs. And they don't know if they can do anything. They're thinking they can't do anything about it. We had a prayers, us 4 guys, and we talked about it. Jeff said he cracked jokes, and he said, I don't want no more crying. He's like, this is going to be a fight. Life's a fight, and we just got to go on from here and hope that things can get better.
He wanted to know how he could affect other people's lives, going through the cancer.
And I think for me, the thing is, one thing I always remember is he was strong in his faith. Huge, that he hit that quite a bit there at the end. And I think obviously we're in a situation like that. We turn to that often, and if we haven't enough through our daily lives. So that was a good leadership move for a lot of people that got to listen to him at that point.
To see him go through that journey and strengthen my faith when this man's sitting there in pain and dwindling away. What a gift he gave me. The impact he had on a lot of us while he was going through his cancer was unbelievable.
He didn't like shots. He didn't like that stuff. So what he went through that time, all of us wondered, how's he doing with that? Because he didn't like that kind of stuff.
Jeff never indicated that he was really hurting or that he was in pain or anything along those lines.
And then you seen him. He was never a guy to take time off or miss work. And then he was missing work. He didn't look good, but he never lost that sense of the fire service. He lost all of his hair, but he never lost his mustache.
At that point, you know, he had so many, he was so sick so fast.
And then it was maybe the last 3 months or something like that, you know, you began to see deterioration. And it was a few days before he had passed that the preacher from the church that my grandma and grandfather gave to was able to come and baptize him at the hospital. But he was at peace with everything. He knew at the spot he was at. We had known for I think a year and a half or so, and he was at peace, and was ready to, I wouldn't say end the fight, not give up or anything, but knew that his time on earth and what he was meant to be used for was complete.
The good Lord says we're not guaranteed tomorrow, and he didn't make it to tomorrow. You know, he's not here, and he left really before his time.
If I was not here at this moment, but Jeff was sitting in the seat,
Yeah.
what would you say to him?
Well, I'd start out. We ended with a big hug, but first thing I'd do would hug him. Here's what I'd say too. I say, what's it like in heaven?
Jeez, where you been? That's what I'd ask him. Hey, where you been? You know, I know where he is, but I think we all have that question. What's on the other side? If he could tell you, that'd be fantastic, huh?
He's running the fire service in heaven. You know, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind.
I miss you.
Just you know, we miss him. You know, he was a great dude. You know, it was just a life that was cut out too short.
Well, I miss Jeff's friendship.
You know, we miss him. You know, we miss what he brought to the table. We miss the comfort level you have on a truck when you turn around and see Jeff there. You know what I mean?
Thank you. Just flat thank you. Because he kind of showed how things should be done.
Me having the privilege of being able to ride the ladder with him, you know, for the last few years here was tremendous for me. So
It was my honor to work for him. He was a great officer. I really enjoyed working for him.
You want to go hop on a truck together, I guess. that'd be something else.
I'd high-five him. No.
And that would be the first thing. Give him a big hug and say thank you.
Just thank you for all of it. Good, bad, ugly, everything.
he was a great friend.
He's a good guy. Thanks.
Jeff, you know, we miss you, you know, very much. You know, one of the things that when I look back at our childhood together, it's certainly something that, you know, I will always treasure, and I'm looking forward to seeing your family grow also.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Jeff, if you can hear, I mean, we miss you. So, you know, thanks for the 11 years that I got to work with you, and yeah, I hope we meet again.
Again, we mourn the loss. It was, I mean, he was a big role model here. He was a big, so I guess if that, we lost a great man, and it hurt. But again, we have to go to work.
You can sit back and have a pride for your last name, for stuff that's been done before you, and now you have the opportunity to carry on with that and fulfill those shoes. That is probably one of the most unique things and things I'm most excited about.
His legacy carries on.